Hello, brothers and sisters and friends and family. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of That's a Great Question, where we look at great questions found in the Bible, their backstories, and what we can learn from them. The question we'll be looking at today is, Am I my brother's keeper? Keeper is not a term that we hear very often, and some of the synonyms we might hear for it is a guardian or caretaker, a custodian, or someone that's entrusted with the charge of responsibility. Am I supposed to be responsible for or care for my brother? The obvious answer to that question is yes. Let's look at the backstory to where this question comes from. You're probably thinking the same thing that I'm thinking. And yes, it does come from Genesis. Let's read in Genesis 4, 1 through 9. Adam made love to his wife, Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man." Later, she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions, from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." Now Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out to the field." While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" "I don't know," he replied. Am I my brother's keeper? We read here about how both of these men have been tremendously blessed by God. And Abel gave his first fruits of what he had received, whereas Cain gave more of the leftovers. Abel's offering was received with favor, but we see that Cain's offering was rejected as an unfavorable offering. You see here that Abel's gratitude highlighted Cain's ingratitude. So Cain became angry, downcast about his offer being rejected. And so the Lord has a conversation with Cain, and he says, "If you do what's right, will you not be accepted?" In other words, I'm giving you the same opportunity. All you have to do, Cain, is just do what's right. He also warns Cain about sin that's crouching at his door. And he gives two outcomes for what's going to happen. Either Cain will master his sin, or he will be mastered by his sin. Unfortunately for Cain, he doesn't heed this warning. And he lures his brother to an isolated place where he kills him. And then he's questioned by God about what happened. And here we read about the famous response, the callous response that Cain gives to, "Am I my brother's keeper?" He feigned ignorance about the whole situation, but that never works with an omniscient God who knows everything. And besides, Abel's blood had cried out from the grave. Cain was held accountable for refusing to deal with the bitterness that was in his heart towards his brother. And we find that he's banished and he's cursed as a restless wanderer, where he's totally cut off. And I think that's a great metaphor, an illustration for where bitterness ultimately leads us when we don't deal with it. As a matter of fact, have you noticed in the Bible how much brotherly relationships are dealt with? We've all been adopted into God's family, and in a sense, we've been entrusted with one another. You might say that we are our brother's keeper. So there's a strong emphasis on dissension because God understands how destructive it is to its members of his family. He knew conflict would be a major issue, and so he gave us a lot of guidance about how to deal with it. Let's turn over to Matthew 5:22-24, and let's read what Jesus has to say about hatred towards a brother. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with his brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, Raka, is answerable to the court. And anyone who says, you fool, will be in danger of the fire of hell. 1 John 2:9. Anyone who claims to be in the light but hates his brother or sister is still in darkness. 1 John 3:15. Anyone who hates a brother or sister is a murderer. And you know that no murderer has eternal life residing in him. And lastly, 1 John 4:20-21. Whoever claims to love God yet hates his brother or sister is a liar. For whoever does not love their brother and sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. And he has given us this command. Anyone who loves God must also love their brother and sister. I want to really push the pause button at this point, and I want to talk about a little bit of my own personal experience with this. This was particularly a difficult devotional for me to do, just mainly because I lived a lot of time on the wrong side of these scriptures. It's been said that those that live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And in several instances, many times, I've lived in direct violation of these scriptures. I've had bitter feelings towards different people over the years that I've allowed to fester, and it's caused me to even be restless at times. And at times I would lose sleep just marinating in some of the anger, resentment, or bitterness that I felt towards particular individuals. And if it's one thing that I learned the hard way, brothers and sisters, is that it eventually comes out. And when it comes out in a very angry, harsh, and destructive way. And I've said some very hurtful things that I regret dearly out of feelings of bitterness that I allowed to master me rather than me mastering. And I think the scriptures are really clear here that we cannot love God or claim to love God while writing off a brother or sister. Animosity puts us in danger of being banished, just like Cain. In 1 John 3:12, it reads, do not be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his own actions were evil and his brothers were righteous. That's the bottom line. And perhaps this has struck a nerve with you. Maybe you're wrestling with some relationship or some bitterness or some resentment towards someone. But the conclusion of the matter is that we are each other's brothers and keepers. We can't let bitterness be tolerable in our own lives, period. And we also must make sure that we don't allow each other to just live in bitterness. We're actually going to be doing a part 2 to help us to really understand how we can go about dealing with bitterness. So in part 2, we'll see you next time. And may God cause his face to shine upon you and his peace to rest with you and guard your heart. Shalom.